Okay, so we're going to drop in and have a bit of a closer look technically at Duel Slalom to see what I think are some of the cool features that make it such an epic little trail. Really short trail, but it's a lot of fun and you can get a lot out of it. There's a number of spots for growth and for learning, and it's really just one of those trails that you love to ride over and over again. And honestly, I wish it was twice as long, but it is what it is. So let's take advantage of that. So right out of the gate, any trail that shares an entrance with Purple Star here at Copeland is going to be a great trail. These are two of my favorite trails here, at least on this side of the valley. On the other side, there's a couple more that are unbelievable. But these two in particular, Duel Slalom and Purple Star, start off with an obstacle right out of the gate. So this is a pretty cool little log ride over. There is a bypass, so it's not a big deal if you're not able to handle that. Well, this doesn't look that aggressive. You can tell from having a look at it that a lot of people are riding this and hitting the chain ring. So they're taking a lot of, this looks like a chainsaw was actually taken to it. How crazy is that? So the problem here is that people are hopping up onto it with the front tire and then they're trying to do a ride over without picking the back tire up. So I think there's a real tricky piece to this one. While it looks like a really simple feature, it's actually a really great thing to start the trail off with, because you're starting on that plus 1% every time you ride, trying to figure out how to get over this crazy thing without taking out chainring teeth. So really cool feature right out of the gate, and I kind of like that. I don't always do it right myself, so it's a good little spot to dial in as you're coming into the trail. So let's get in here and have a look at some of the cool bits and pieces. So once again, I'm running the Magic Marys, which are a pretty heavy tire set. Again, we are early in the spring. You can see the ground is actually amazing. It's actually in incredible condition since we're up high in here, and makes for some amazing riding, but you do have to make sure that you get off down in the lower parts where the valleys are still full of mud. So let's get in here. Let's pick up that back tire. Should have got a back shot of that one. And we'll get into the fun. So here's where the two trails break off. We are going to go hit Duel Slalom today. Now right out of the gate, if you're coming through this one for some speed, you got a couple of neat features. Up here as we get into the first little section, there's a couple of really good, nice, flat, bermless turns where you can work on your turn style. This one loosens up really quite a bit in the spring, but this is where the fun kind of starts. So we're going to drop in here. There's a nice little berm followed by what I'm going to call a downhill drop, and then we've got a nice little uphill, and it's, I guess, a jump going up it. Just a small, I don't even want to call it a gap, it's just a small little jump, and then followed by another big downhill drop that goes a little bit off camber with a turn after it. So a whole bunch of features in this one little section, which is a lot to get in. So let's do a slow ride through and then break those out bit by bit. I'll stop before the second drop and then we can go from there. You can pump through this section and then hit this berm in here. Typically, I don't think I hit it till pretty late. Yeah, I hit it generally up around here as I'm coming in, trying to build a nice straight line for this first drop. So dropping into the first turn, there's a great berm here. You can get up on that one. Followed by nice drop. Again, there's a bypass here if this is something that you're not feeling over ambitious about, but it is somewhere where you can really progressively build your skill. This is a great roll down, and it's a great ride as a drop, and quite honestly there's enough of a landing at the other end of it here that you actually could probably jump this one pretty well, although there is no incline. So technically an incline or compression, I guess, leading into a drop is what classifies it as a jump. So here you can see from the bottom side of that first berm into the drop. So I'm about 6 feet tall. I'm 10 feet out, and at this point my head is just below the top level of this drop. So it's a pretty, it's not bad, but it's enough to kind of scare you off a little bit. This one's been well built in that you can easily ride over it, which is a really great starting point for this one. And then you can progress to a bigger drop as you get out here. I'll see if I can go over to the side here, you get a better shot sideways. You can start now building your drop as you come out, getting the full length of the bike in before you start dropping into this, where it actually gets a little bit steeper from that point. So it's a really, really good little progressive drop. And then a nice little hop and this nice little jump here, which is good for a good 4 or 5 foot jump maybe, depending on where you hit it and how you take it. So it's a nice mild transition, get some good compression coming into it, and then you can flip up into here, and it's got a great spot to land, nice level spot coming into this last turn. You're not going to be carrying a lot of speed through this turn, unfortunately, possibly fortunately, depending on how you feel about the next feature. But it's a nice smooth little jump, and it's a really great little skill builder. Another smaller berm, and then into the bigger drop. Now this is cameras always find this one really hard to pick up. Personally, this one for me is kind of at the edge of comfort zone. As you can see here, this is a fairly ambitious drop. So this one goes down probably only about 2 or 3 feet from the edge here, but by the time you are 6 or 7 feet out, you're also 5 feet or so down. By the time you're 15 feet out, you're 15 feet down. So it is a pretty steep angle. And there's a nice little tree that you can run into at the bottom there if you don't catch that bottom berm right as you're coming out of it. So pretty cool little space. Let's have a closer look. I'm at the bottom of the second drop, and now as you can see from this side, it is a fair bit bigger than it looks, but it's a great little piece. So again, about 6 feet. So we're probably looking at the 12-foot total to this point. It's a little bit more aggressive of a drop. So again, it's going to be all drop. There's no compression required at the top of this one, though you're welcome to do so if you please. The catch is, of course, this tree as you come down here. You want to make sure that you're lined up well and nice and solid as you hit this berm and come around this corner. I see a couple of nicks out of that tree, so I know some people have clipped it, but another really great little progressive riding spot. You can hit it sort of at whatever speed you want, and then coming out, give a good pump coming out of this one and into this next little uphill section, and then on to the next thing. So for anyone that's not familiar with this trail, dual slalom gets its name out of a bit of a play on words there, where now we have a choice of a dual track. So 2 slalom tracks where you can pit against your best buddies and have a bit of a duel as to see who's going to get through it faster. So this is where it splits off here, and you could take the high road or the low road. Personally, I kind of like a bit of a combination of the two, which wasn't always allowed. From time to time they'll block this section off. I do see a lot of people have been riding through here, so probably time to block it off again. But you can take the high path over here, skirt up there. That one does get pretty rooty around the top, or you could take the low and maintain your speed in through here and around the corner down there, and then meet up on the other side again as we come back down the hill. So coming into these little turns, we've got a couple of things we want to remember. One is set up for the pre-turn. 2 is this stuff is really loose. Make sure you get your weight over top of the bike, and you got a good lean as you go around the corner. The bike is leaning, not you. You're on top of the bike and keeping that weight on the outside of the tire as you go around it. Remember to keep your proper turning form. Pedals flat till you get into the corner. So pre-turn, shift my weight. I've got the bike leaning over, and then same thing again here. Lost the line on that one, but you get the idea for the pre-turning. I think that's a really important piece that a lot of people overlook. This is a great corner. The first of these 2 switchbacks sets you up for kind of default pre-turning, which is pretty unusual, especially in an off-camber switchback. So you can see the line comes in here, swoops high before it gets into the turn, then comes back around and into an off-camber, barely supported turn before going into the next switchback, and we'll have a look at that one as well. So coming out of the first switchback, we've got another one. It's a little bit trickier to pre-turn into this one because you've got the roots and everything sitting here. But I think if you stay low and do a sharper pre-turn just as you come into the corner, and then we're coming out of it into a loose and not supported exit. So you want to have minimal speed, otherwise you're going to meet that tree and get really friendly there, which is not what we're looking for. This is the last little bit of craziness coming out of dual slalom, coming into the end portion of the trail as we near the bottom of the valley. We have a number of lines to hit here. I've tried several, probably 3 or 4, with the exception of one that you'll see shortly why. But the inside line here was pretty good. It is very steep, so one thing you need to really be cognizant of is you're going to have to be careful to pre-turn, and you're going to have a really sharp corner at the bottom coming out of this on a kind of a negative camber with a loose edge. So that does make it a little bit tricky. There are a couple of different fun lines here. There's one that's got a massive drop, and by massive, for me it's massive. For a lot of riders it's not a big deal, but we're probably looking in the 4.5–5 foot range there into a downhill. And then we do have another kind of option to sort of go around the corner here and do a cool little drop. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. This is that you're not in a hurry. You're just out with the guys having some fun, or the girls having some fun and doing what you want to do. So this is a really cool little line. There's also a couple of lines here. What I think I'm seeing, there's a less used line up on top of this bank here, which is actually a really fast line, but you can't get kind of a pump that you can get as you come around this corner and around this tree. There's a slight bank. You could also wash out really easily onto that other line that I was talking about earlier. So there's a quick line up through the top here, and then you've got a couple more choices as you approach the bottom. Again, you can flip through here, which typically is one of the lines that I like to ride. It keeps the distance a little bit shorter, smooths out that nasty bottom edge down there, and it doesn't require you to have a whole lot of skill to do it well. So this one whipping through here looks like it's a fairly traveled line, although there's a couple of trees in the way. And so when you get down here, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You are looking at a fairly big drop into a downhill, and again, it's pretty loose and sandy, so a lot of people love that, but a lot of people also go straight off of the trail here and kind of lose track of what they're doing. I'm hoping that they're just doing it for fun and having a good time, but that's the last kind of really cool feature about this. Trail snakes on down here around a couple of corners and down to the bottom of the valley, which is the main trail. I'll head up here and you can have a bit of a better look at this drop. Again, really sandy on the bottom end here. So camera being chest height, the top of my helmet is probably at the top of this rock at this point. And then down to my feet, we're maybe a third of the way down this little hill. So overall, if we look up to the bike up there, we're probably about halfway down the hill in this. So it's a good little run. This is a fantastic little trail. It's got a lot to offer, fast or slow. It's got a huge varying degree of skill sets and different lines that you can take depending on how you like to ride and what level you're at. And this is one that I love to ride to warm up, and it's one that I love to ride once I'm warmed up, trying to get a little bit better speed out of it and to just have a little bit of fun. Thanks everyone for joining me on the journey today. If you have a trail in Ontario you'd like to see highlighted on the channel, please comment below. And if you like this content, like this content. Remember to accomplish something new every time you ride and never let your fears set your limits.